You're terrified of the strongest version of yourself, not because it asks too much of you, but because it asks the wrong things to die. If you keep protecting who you are now, you'll never meet who you were meant to become. Stop hiding. The other you is waiting, and time won't wait. You think fear is about danger, but the fear that keeps you small is subtler. It is the fear of displacement, social, psychic, and moral. Strength rearranges every sympathetic relationship. It asks you to set boundaries, to speak truth, to choose cost over comfort. That feels less like danger and more like exile. Your nervous system reads loss faster than it reads future gain, because evolution prioritized being part of the tribe. So when the stronger version of you appears, the one who says no to what cheapens you, the one who chooses work when others choose gossip, the one who refuses small lies for the sake of reputation, the brain interprets that as risk to social belonging. You are terrified because strength threatens the safety you've enjoyed, but it goes deeper than social cost. Strength demands uncloaking. The powerful self you fear will reveal what you've conditioned yourself to hide. The compromises, the acts of small self-betrayal, the patterns of deferring truth. To be strong, you must own the ledger of your life. That means admitting the times you let convenience outvote courage, the people you let shape your choices more than your conscience, the habits you call "this is how I am," when they are simply what you learned to survive. Admission is light. Light reveals flaws. Most people would rather hold a neat story than hold a real life. So strength is terrifying because it calls for a painful bookkeeping, one that will upset relationships, pride, and the image you cultivated. There is a psychological economy at play. Risk aversion buys you stability now, but taxes your future power enormously. Each concession to comfort compounds into habit architecture that cements a smaller identity. Strength requires that you demolish some of that architecture, and demolition is loud, messy, and socially awkward. The mind prefers the small pain of familiarity to the unknown pain of recreation. This is why courage is not simply an emotion. It is a moral discipline that must be practiced, priced, and paid for. Another component is shame. Shame is the inner censor that frames reaching for strength as selfishness or vanity. If I become more, I will lose them, the shame voice whispers. If I take up space, I will be judged. So you internalize micro-decisions that cost you identity, staying quiet, taking the easy job, accepting incremental drift, and you justify them as humility or realism. That voice is not wisdom. It is the maintenance crew for the smaller self. Finally, strength terrifies because it demands integration with the darker parts of you. The strongest version is not purely angelic. It contains your shadow, your bluntness, your capacity to hold truths others flee. Strength calls you to be whole, and wholeness involves owning the parts you have separated, the anger you punished, the ambition you secreted away, the competitiveness you were told to hide. Integrating those parts means you will be less palatable to those who prefer you in a comfortable box. The brain, loyal to avoidance, will opt for the box. To move, you must reframe fear, recognize its sources, social cost, admission, shame, shadow integration, and then practice small outrages of truth against each. Speak one honest sentence you have avoided. Cancel one small obligation that steals your margin. Make one decision that favors future integrity over present comfort. Each act is a micro-rupture of the fear architecture, and micro-ruptures aggregate. Fear is not the commander of destiny. It is a guard to be negotiated with, not obeyed. The strongest version of you is terrifying because it wants something the smaller, self-values least. The right to be governed by truth, not convenience. That is a price worth paying. Comfort is like an unmarked tax on your destiny. It arrives politely, a bit more ease here, one more peacekeeping concession there, and you accept it because immediate relief is seductive. Over time, those small, sensible choices crystallize into a life architecture designed to avoid discomfort. The morning you skip practice because it's cold, the week you take easier assignments because you're busy, the relationship you maintain because the friction of leaving is more painful than the quiet erosion of your soul. Each is a small withdrawal from the bank of future potential. Modern comfort is packaged exceptionally well. The world sells you rational reasons: stability for the kids, consistency for the CV, reputation management so the neighbors are impressed. These are not trivial. They are legitimate concerns, but they become theft when they become the default currency rather than the occasional investment. The morality of time is different from the economy of money. Spending a comfort now can bankrupt the psyche later. You sleep better tonight, but you voice less, create less, become less. Comfort also erodes identity by diminishing the muscle of resistance. Habits that required courage at first become automatic avoidance. The nervous system learns not to prefer the option that costs, and neural pathways for bravery atrophy. You stop practicing difficult conversations, so you become worse at them. You stop sitting with discomfort, so you misremember it as intolerable. Comfort anesthetizes and then misreports. See? All is fine, it says, but your interior knows the truth. There is an additive calculus. Multiple small comforts compound into a large deficit. The person who willfully trades a little integrity for a moment of peace will find that pattern replicating because the brain seeks efficiency. Efficiency and preservation becomes the enemy of becoming. And because the costs are distal, foggy, deferred, and unnamed, we fail to value the sacrificed future self. We treat the future as malleable and forgiving of procrastination. That is a cognitive lie. Practical remediation begins with a season of audit. Inventory the small comforts that drain you. Habitual scrolls, easy diets, absent practices, frozen conflicts. Make a list. Then create an interest schedule. What will you invest weekly to grow your future capacity? Replace one comfort with one practice. Walk in the cold 3 minutes longer. Say one honest word in a meeting. Practice one craft micro session. These modest transactions repeated compound. Another powerful tactic is to reassign the meaning of safety. True safety is not the avoidance of discomfort. It is the alignment of action with identity. When your daily choices reflect your deepest commitments, safety changes its color. It becomes the inner assurance that you are living on purpose. Comfort masquerades as safety. Alignment is the real thing. Finally, accept grief for comforts you will lose. Leaving a comfortable role or habit sometimes means social friction. Allow grief to do its work and then move. The grief, when honored, eases and clears the space for the stronger self. Comfort's quiet theft is real. Counter it with tiny investments in the person you will become. And those investments will pay compound returns in courage and meaning. Identity is a contract you formed early and then renewed daily by habit. You call yourself this because that label organizes expectation and social currency. The strongest version of you threatens that contract. It proposes a new identity and thereby obligates a different set of actions. Relationships and consequences. Change is not merely behavioral. It is contractual, with family expectations, with reputation investments, with the economy of belonging. The prospect of rewriting a contract feels like bankruptcy to the old self. That's why identity shift is terrifying. Shame is the emotional enforcer of this contract. It speaks in a voice of not enough, too much, or unlovable. When you angle toward strength, when you claim space, voice truth, or pursue a lonely craft, shame alerts. You'll be judged, it whispers. Shame's power is its social imagination. It simulates the worst-case public humiliation and presents it as probable. But shame also tells a different lie, that you owe your small self fidelity because it kept you safe. The cost of leaving feels like betraying that earlier you, and betrayal breeds guilt. Yet identity transformation requires grief and forgiveness. You must grieve the role you embodied, the caretaker who always said yes, the achiever who never showed tenderness, the dependable friend who never asked for reciprocity. These were functional and at one time necessary. Thank them, mourn them, and then decline to let them define you further. Forgiveness for your past self's compromises is the solvent that dissolves shame's grip. A practical sequence helps. First, map the identity script. Write out the words you habitually tell yourself. I'm not creative. I'm not brave. I'm not worthy. Then interrogate their origin. Whose voice were you internalizing? Next, rehearse a different script in small social experiments. Say the sentence you fear aloud to one trusted person. Notice the physiological response. Practice until your body recalibrates. The nervous system will eventually accept the new script as viable. Restructuring identity also requires boundary work. Strength looks like limits. You must practice saying no to what drains and yes to what enlarges. Boundaries are the grammar through which new identity speaks. Each no is a punctuation mark that allows the stronger self to be legible. And always keep humility in the process. Becoming stronger does not confer moral superiority. It confers responsibility. The people who become rigid, proud, or self-aggrandizing mistake strength for sanctimony. The right kind of becoming cultivates tenderness, not hardness. So as you redraw identity, hold the capacity to listen, repair, and be corrected. Strength lives in service, not only in separation. Becoming is a technical skill as much as it is moral. The strongest version of you doesn't appear by inspiration alone. It is forged by repetition. The nervous system learns identity through proofs, small, non-negotiable acts that deliver evidence to the unconscious. These micro-proofs alter expectation. They tell your brain, something different is real, and then scaffold that reality. Begin with morning anchors, 10 minutes of undistracted writing, unsent messages that go to paper, or a short physical ritual that grounds you, constructs an internal axis. The morning anchors set the moral tone. They are statements. Today I choose proof. Next, adopt a visibility practice. Commit to one small public act a week that aligns with the stronger self, and a short video about what you're studying, a paragraph of work posted, a truth you voice. Public smallness builds private courage. The social cost functions like a collar that stops casual retreat. Third, practice repair rituals. When you fail, do a 5-minute immediate corrective. Name the gap, note the lesson, choose the next small action. Repair is fast, humble, and without drama. It trains your system to iterate rather than hide. Fourth, design thresholds. Require small friction before indulgence. Cold shower before leisure. 10 minutes of practice before social media. A short, hard conversation before passive consumption. Thresholds create the scaffolding where willpower meets routine. Fifth, place a ledger in your line of sight. A visible list of micro-proofs, small acts crossed out, is the evidence bank. When you doubt, read the ledger. Proofs beat feelings. Finally, ritualize celebration. Not noisy vanity, but quiet acknowledgement. After completing a micro-proof, pause, breathe, affirm. These micro-celebrations signal competence to the limbic system and encourage repeat performance. Rituals are not magic. They are neural engineering. Build them deliberately, and the future self you feared will emerge naturally, because your body will have learned to be that person. Courage is not a cinematic flourish. It is a ledger decision. Every choice to step toward strength requires subtraction. Less time, fewer agreeable relations, less toleration for petty comforts. You will lose things. Friends, easy invitations, illusions of safety. That loss is not random punishment. It is the necessary capital transfer required to buy a life of integrity. The moral calculus is this: choose small, repeated losses now so you can live in fidelity later. The language of sacrifice must be clarified. Sacrifice is not scarcity. It is investment. You don't lose to become empty. You trade ephemeral ease for lasting capacity. The person who chooses. The morning practice isn't ascetic for the sake of pain. They are an investor. That mindset converts suffering into procurement. Courage is also social. To change, you must sometimes choose people who match your new aims, even if it means pruning ties. Many relationships thrive on your past comforts. When you alter the terms by holding boundaries, you'll test those connections. Some pass, some dissolve. That pruning is mercy. It spares you from codependency and allows you space to practice new strengths. Moreover, courage must be public, small, and consistent. Announce a modest vow, deliver it, then expand. Public commitment converts private weakness into community support. The world will not rescue your courage. You must build social scaffolding for it. Finally, practice the ethics of repair. Courage produces failures. Having the humility to own mistakes accelerates respect and integration. The brave do not avoid failure. They fail forward with honesty. Courage costs, but the only alternative cost is a life of quiet erosion. Choose courage. Pay the bill. The payoff is a durable inner sovereignty. Meeting your stronger self is the beginning of governance, not the coronation that ends effort. After the first steps, you will confront two dangers: relapse into comfort and prideful ossification. The antidote is a steady system, accountability structures, repair rituals, thresholds, and community. Accountability. Choose 1 or 2 witnesses who hold you to truth. Not cheerleaders, but steadies. Weekly checks where you share micro-proofs will keep you honest. Repair. Failures will come. Have a set protocol. Immediate admission, short lesson, defined corrective action. Repair ritual prevents shame from calcifying and keeps momentum. Thresholds and sanctuaries. Keep non-negotiable time for deep work, reflection, and restoration. Weekly solitude, quarterly retreats, daily anchors. These sanctuaries protect the new identity. Humility. The stronger self must be servant. Practice listening, correction, and generosity. Strength without humility calcifies into tyranny. Ledger of proofs. Keep a visible record of small wins and repairs. When feeling weak, let the ledger convince you back into integrity. Finally, live as a repeated recommitment. Each day you choose a small act of fidelity, you meet the stranger in the mirror again. The reunion is not a moment but a ritual lifetime. Keep showing up. The strongest version of you is not a distant legend. It is the sum of tiny, costly actions done consistently. Meet them, and then live as if you have invited them to stay.